One last race remains for the 2023 season for the NARC 410 Sprint Car Series. It'll be at the Stockton Dirt Track this Saturday, November 4th, for the Tribute to Gary Patterson. We grabbed a special interview with Gary Patterson's best friend, Mike Andreetta, as well as had a chance to talk with NARC General Manager Jim Allen. We'll start the program off with talking to Jim Allen about this coming weekend before we get into our discussion with Mike Andreetta. Well, Jim, it's kind of that bittersweet time of the year. It's one race left for the NARC 410 Sprint Car Series, but it should be a good one, the 40th annual Tribute to Gary Patterson Stockton Dirt Track. All roads lead to Stockton this weekend.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I think in a strange way, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that this might actually be the season opener for Stockton, too. I don't know if they got any races in this year between rainouts and everything else. So, it's always a big show, Triple Crown. They got us, you got Sprint Car Challenge Tour, and the Hunt Series non-wing cars, all on one program, all without mufflers. Always promises to be a good show.
Yeah, no, you are correct in that statement that this is it's opening night and the season finale for this place. But all kidding aside, I mean, the facility is wonderful, and the promotion group, you got to feel really, really bad for them, just the way things kind of rolled this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just think, when you see what happens behind the scenes, these promoters, they do a lot of work to make things happen, and their costs doesn't go away just because they had a race. I mean, they gotta keep the ball rolling, and Stockton has a good team behind them to get the word out. And like I said, I hope they, whatever. I don't think weather's going to be a factor. And something else that's going to be new is that this is supposed to be the last time that we're going to be racing on this 4/10 mile track because, according to Tony Nassetti, he is going to dramatically chop it in size in an attempt to make it racier.
I heard that. So it's no longer one of those rumors that is filling the sprint car world up. It is in fact a deal that'll be taking place. And this will be my first time there, but that should be exciting, right? Closer quarters.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, Tony wanted to do it several years ago, but there was a well out there off at turn 3 in a little building, and it kind of constricted the way he could shape the track. And I don't know all the details, but when we had to cancel our race in August, they put a new well in, and I guess that kind of gave Tony the green light. But I think Tony is looking at a true quarter mile on the pole. If your front wheel was on that inside berm, and he's trying to just make it racier. The speed is fun, but you know what? We like it when they race wheel to wheel, and man, on a quarter mile, it probably doesn't get any better as far as a sprint car goes. So expect the tractors to be burning some laps beginning next week.
Sure, yeah. They may be warming things up when that last checkered flag falls.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's a good thing. And we got the 40th annual Tribute to Gary Patterson. Man, I've been in this thing a long time, and it's like, man, we're up to number 40 already. I mean, that's pretty scary. And, to kind of clarify something, there was a few posts on social media talking about, well, there was a Gary Patterson race here, and there was one at Baylands, and there was an outlaw race. And this is basically the 40th annual, NARC sanctioned event for the Tribute to Gary Patterson. And I know you have the list of previous winners, and it reads like the Hall of Fame in California.
Yeah, no, it's really impressive. Steve Kent had a lot of success with it, Brent Kading. Even guys like Tim Green did very well at this event. And, there's some notables that are contemporaries racing right now. Shane Golobic, one of them, Justin Sanders, and that have gotten the job done in recent years. And I really think this weekend is going to be really, really fun. And it's always great to kind of we got a historical figure that we're honoring here, and it is one of those things. It's hard to believe 40 years, but it's great to kind of get that touch of nostalgia of definitely a great guy that was a part of NARC back in the day.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. He's reached that legend status. And, the best thing about this thing, too, is Tony Nassetti always puts together a custom-made trophy for that event. And it's one of those events that, you not only won, the Tribute to GP, but, you have just a bitchin' trophy and you're, on your mantle or wherever you're going to put it for that race that becomes a talking point for many years to come. So, it'll be pretty good. And then we also have an autograph session going on here, too. Right now, I think we've got Brent Kading, Tim Kading, Jason Statler, Leroy Van Connet, and a few others we're going to be adding to the mix here in the next couple days. So there'll be an autograph session of some other racing legends, some of those guys who actually raced with Gary back in the day, and between 3 and 5 in front of the grandstands at Stockton. So if you're a fan, don't miss that.
It's so wonderful, because it seems like it's far and few between that you have events that last beyond 10 years or so, because sometimes just kind of the luster it fades or stalls the momentum. And, some events come back and, are continued, but this deal has been continuous. It, started at Calistoga, which is a place that, gosh, I wish I could have saw a race at, but then it, went over to Silver Dollar for a little bit, but then it's kind of been home at Stockton for the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, it seems like there's a good following there for that event. Like I said, I think it's just a perfect event to close out the sprint car season. And once again, Tony Nassetti and the Stockton Dirt Track makes it possible and keep it going. And, the fact that any promoter in California is going to bolt on 3, shall we say, high dollar sprint car shows on the same program, that is called a commitment to motorsport, or maybe, insanity. I'm not sure. One of those two, but
clinical insanity. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so once again, man, fans got to come out on Saturday, support Stockton for the season opener, season finale there.
Sure. And speaking of the season coming to a close, Corey Day, it's starting to become a cliche. Corey Day doing Corey Day things last weekend, and which should set things up perfectly for him come Saturday. But kind of below the standings, below him in the points table, there's still some things that are far, far from undecided and really up for grabs.
Yeah, so, every point position in the top 10, there's thousands of dollars attached to each one. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Dominic Scelzi, Justin Cox, and Bud Kading can completely swap positions at this race depending on what happens at this show. So, they're all, battling for position and, whatever. And basically, nobody's going to be backing off in the season finale. They're, making sure they protect their position, or for that matter, gain the position, because there's a cash reward come Sunday at the championship banquet.
Yeah, 17 points is the spread between 3rd and 5th, and that could go flip-flop and go in all sorts of different directions, especially... Bud Kading is in decent form. Justin Cox is no one to discount, and Dominic Scelzi, he's a threat to. He's won at Stockton before, so everybody's kind of got their credentials of how this could go good in their favor.
Exactly. Yeah. So it should be it'll be fun to watch them. It'll be fun to watch Corey to see if he is going to continue his hammer down approach. Really, all he's got to do is take a green flag in qualifying, and he officially locks in the NARC championship. It would be interesting if, let's say hypothetically, he wins, race number 10. That's 50% of the sprint car season, NARC sprint car season, 50%. Think about that. Sure. Type of success. That's Kyle Larson type of success when, he lit up the nation there for a while. So, should be a good show. But, I can't discount other people. You get Shane Golovic or DJ Neto, or those guys up there, anywhere near the front. Who knows? At Stockton, it's hammer down. It's like going around the slot car set.
Yeah, no doubt. And then as soon as the banquet's over on Sunday, there's not really too much rest, because it's going to be planning and outlining what's going to be happening in 2024.
Yeah, exactly. I've been working, Brett and I have been working the schedule, and in reality, our schedule for next year is, I would say, done. We've been, working on dates, and I mean, there's going to be a few surprises in the mix, which we can talk about on a separate call. Mm-hmm. And so we're getting that thing dialed in, and I think I've mailed out about 250 sponsorship proposals so far, and I try to get as many of those things out before Thanksgiving. So yeah, it's a year-long job for people who don't necessarily own race cars.
Sure, absolutely. Well, you do a terrific job, and it's been a lot of fun being a part of this season, and can't wait to see how Saturday goes, and kind of a chance also to kind of take it all in on Sunday morning / Sunday afternoon at the awards banquet.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, we're over at the Brookside Country Club. We got a brunch going. I've been working on this thing literally for the last 3 days. To put it in perspective, I think I have a 35-page script, 13 videos, and somewhere around 90 PowerPoint slides that all get pieced together into a entertaining hour-and-a-half show. And we'll pass out somewhere around $75,000 in point fund money, if not more. And it should be a good show.
35-page script. That's some Hollywood writing there.
Exactly. It's just my notes. I write it, and I practice it, and I read it, and then by the time I get up there and have maybe 2 vodka cranberries, I can do it by heart. So.
There you go. Well, awesome. Well, we'll see you Saturday, Jim.
All right. Sounds good. All right. See ya.
And now we welcome a member of the NARC family who's one of the officials still with the NARC 410 Sprint Car Series, and it's Mike Andreetta to tell us some really touching stories about the late Gary Patterson.
I just pulled out some old notes that I made. I was asked by his children, Teresa and Jim, to speak at his funeral. And one of the things I went over is I said that Gary Patterson was really known by different people in different ways. In the 60s, it had a nickname of what is something that he loved. My nickname was the Rat, and he's the one that gave that to me because he loved nicknames. But in the early 60s, he was known as the Dancing Phantom.
Okay.
And to me, when I was speaking at his funeral, I said, I don't care what you call him. To me, he's Gary Patterson, the racer. Mm-hmm. And in the early 70s, he was also called the hostile hippie. and it was the same thing to me, that he was Gary Patterson, the racer. Uh-huh. And in the 70s, his name was, his nickname was the Preacher, which was given to him by a guy that him and Larry Rice, who was a USAC guy that drove sprint cars and midgets and stuff from he was a Midwest guy back east around Indy is where he lived. Well, they went to Australia together, so he called Patterson was the preacher, and he was the teacher everywhere they went throughout Australia and into. They also went over into what's other besides Australia?
New Zealand.
Yep, exactly, 100%. And he was also known by a guy named Steve Brazier, Gary Rush. Both of them came over here. Ron Wallace came over here a few times, but I think there might have been 1 or 2 times where he ever raced over here. But he was a guy that had a lot of money over there, and they call him an Aussie. They were mates to him, really close friends, and hung out to him. But again, to me, he was still Gary Patterson. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And the last few years, another game was called GP the Great. But to me, Gary, I put this thing in there. Gary Patterson put on a soil uniform and slid down inside a race car, and he will always be known to me as Gary Patterson, the racer. So I get tears in my eyes when I talk that way because he was a good person, could race, he never did anything bad, even though I looked out for that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But he was a really a good person. That was his life, is to race. And I also said to Gary Patterson that he's going, he's in heaven hopefully, and he's going to run a main event up there against everybody. You know what I mean? It's kind of what we look for when we die, is go up there, still have those things going on. But he's really a good person. I don't know if his daughter will be there, but his son will be there. And, they bring a bunch of T-shirts and things like that to the races. He had a couple odd jobs where he worked for Ed Watson, who owned a body shop down in Stockton. Him and I both lived in Stockton until we moved up here. He's the one that talked me into running sprint cars. I was driving super modifieds down there in Stockton, and he said, "Dude, you need to get in a dirt car." So he got me a ride up at West Capitol Raceway in a sprint car. And once I raced on dirt for the first time, I said, "There's no way I ever want to run on pavement again, because that's not anything cool compared to racing on dirt."
Sure.
But I was sitting in the pits getting my helmet ready to run the main event. When he got killed at Calistoga, he was in the semi, and I'm sitting there doing my helmet, and I heard a noise. I looked up to my right where he made contact with another car. I watched him flipping down the front straightaway. I seen his helmet fly off, and when he landed down in turn one, I never even got off the tire I was sitting on, because I knew what happened. And the first guy that ran up to his car ran up there to look in the car, and I don't know who he was, but ran up to look in his car, and he backed up about 3 feet and puked all over the ground, because that's what he seen when he looked inside the car. It was a bad accident, that's for sure.
When do you remember first kind of getting to know him? Was it outside of racing, or was it through racing that you guys?
No, it was through racing. He came. I was racing on a pavement track in Stockton at 99 Speedway, and I started racing there in 1968. And him and Ed Watson came over there together, and they came down and talked to me after the race was over, and that's where we became friends. And then the following year, it was 2 years, because it was 1970. I was billing another super modified to race, and Gary and his family lived in an apartment. And he says, "Well, you bring the car over here, I'll help you build it." So we went over there and got electricity out of the back, and he helped me build the car. And then right after that is when that car I built, him and I built there, I won the championship in Carson City. And then the year after that, he got me a ride in a sprint car, like I said, on dirt. And once I raced on dirt for the first time, I did a article for somebody in a magazine that was doing an interview. I said, the only thing you need payment for is to go to and from a dirt race. You don't need to go race on it.
Nice. Well, and then, so then when you guys started doing dirt track stuff, you guys were pretty much inseparable, because he went to a lot of places, and I assume you went a lot of places with him too.
Right, exactly. And then him and I, the first year I went to Australia, him and I went over there together, and we were both running sprint cars over there. And he had been there before, and that was my first time over there. And he was there was a sprint car over there. I don't remember who built it now, but there was a modified that could run on dirt that Wally Baker made out from West Capitol that somebody over there bought. Well, I was going to drive that car, and Patterson was going to run a sprint car. Well, we were both hot lapping him at in Australia, in Sydney, and he in the first race we were in, he wound up crashing his car because I was a new guy there and he was the famous guy that had been there before. They put him in that car I was driving, and they put me in a car that Steve Brazier used over there, and it was, to me, it was a very hideous car. But anyhow, I was over there to make money or whatever, and I ran that car. But that we went to Australia that year, and the next year, him and I and Larry Burton went back over there, and then I went over there because you could make more money running stock cars over there. He went a couple more times after that, and you know, he kind of quit, and I kept going. I don't know how many years. I think I went over there 6 or 7 times or something.
Well, and then during those times, the USA versus Australia deal, it wasn't just like it was some intense stuff. Like the fans, if you roughed up in Australia, and they'd be all over you guys. And
oh God, it was like crazy. Yeah, yeah, it was nuts. They were, and Patterson, when they interviewed us, he would be the one that he would get them all pissed off because of what he said to them, and I wouldn't do that. It was that part was pretty good. It was a lot of fun.
Well, he wasn't the guy that wiped the Australian flag on his backside, was he? That was somebody else.
Say again?
He wasn't the guy that took the Australian flag and was like using it as toilet paper or anything, right?
Oh no, I can't remember who that was, but it was somebody else. No, okay. He never did anything that bad, but he always has something. He talked about I remember him saying that one night we're at the races, and he told them their national bird over there should be a fly because there's more flies over there than there is birds or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The place went crazy, and those fans over there, you knew they were pissed off when they threw cans of beer at you and they were full.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Well. And you know, stateside, he had a really kind of brilliant run there, like pre-outlaw days too. I mean, that's the thing you gotta kind of have to, for me, like I have to comprehend, like this is all before the World of Outlaws wasn't even a thought when he won Dirt Cup in '73 or Gold Cup in '77 or Turkey Night Grand Prix in '77. Right.
Yeah. No. He didn't. I mean, he ran some outlaw races, but he wasn't really. It wasn't like he wanted to stop everything he was doing here to run with them, even though he did run with them. But he liked to run. Him and I, we spent a lot of time together at Ascot Park that Agajanians owned, and him and I both set there used to be a Krager wheel company had an award down there. If you qualified in the 19 seconds, they would put your name on the board that all the fans got to see when they walked up to sit in the grandstands. So him and I, both of us made it. And when Agajanian shut that place down and Gary was already gone, I told the Agajanians, I said, dude, there's only one thing you could do for me is if you get rid of that signboard there because they're going to shut the track down. I said, I'll pay you whatever you want for my name and Gary Patterson's name off of it. Well, they always told me that they were going to move it to a new racetrack that they ever built. But now if you go to Knoxville and you go into the museum they have there with all the cars in there, or the Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call it, that board is in there. When you walk in the front door, you look up. There's other people's names on there, but it's me and Gary Patterson's name that people would take a picture of and bring it back from here to there, you know.
Wow. Yeah, that is my favorite place to go to. I was just talking to a guy from Knoxville in another interview I did with my podcast, and I told him that that's my favorite place to go in Knoxville, and I only was there for 4 days, and I feel like I could spend like 4 weeks just walking through there and just going through everything.
Yeah.
Well, and what was unique about your guys' time is it wasn't strictly everybody was running wings. There was a mix of non-wings and wings, and sometimes some series it'd be every other week. It'd be something different that you guys would run.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. I always had my biggest thing I liked the most. Not that I didn't win some races with a wing, is I enjoyed running non-ring races more, because in my mind it's more about what you do, not what the car does. You put a wing on there, the car better be right, because you can't make up the difference just by driving it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and
yeah, no, it was good. It was I missed the guy a lot, to tell you the truth.
Well, and there was some big shows there, like the North before Civil War series was around, the California Civil War series in the early 90s. There was the North versus South, like the CRA guys, and I guess you could say the NARC guys too. I mean, they had some big shows. Exactly.
Yep. We would run against them, and they'd come up here, and they came to Calistoga a couple times, and they'd like to come a lot more, but I can't really remember what happened to kind of stop that, in a sense, but it wasn't that the racers didn't like it. It was just about the difference between CRA and NARC, what they did. You know what I mean? It didn't go over as good as it should have, because the people liked it, the fans liked it, but I can't really remember, Ben, what made it all kind of stop, but it definitely did.
Sure.
And then what really happened is NARC for a lot of years, everybody was behind it, which was Louis Vermeil was the main guy behind it. They weren't against wings, but they always wanted their series, NARC, not to be a wing thing. Well, the people that lived around here in Sacramento that ran everything they ran had wings on it. They're the ones that kind of got it turned over to that. That might be kind of why the challenge between CRA and us, when you had a sprint car race with wings on it, they weren't going to put wings on there. They never even had wing mounts on their chassis, know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say, just kind of off of your recollection, what were some of Gary's favorite races, or some of the favorite tracks that you guys like to go to together?
Well, he liked Chico a lot, he liked it. He also loved Calistoga, and him and I both, the two favorite tracks other than Calistoga. We're guys that love to run on bigger racetracks. We'd go to either to Ascot Park or into Phoenix, Arizona, the racetrack that was there, the half mile.
Oh, Manzanita.
Manzanita. That's the place that him and I enjoyed to go the most. I remember picking him up one time and drove down to the airport. He had a bird, a white one of them white birds with those yellow feathers in his head that he locked up in his cage, gave it some food, and when we come back from the races down there, that bird ate all the wire that he wired. The door closed. It was out. It screwed his whole house up, and it was nuts. Yeah,
crazy bird.
Yeah.
Wow. And did you? I know that he went to the Midwest. Obviously, ran into some guys. But did you go with him as well on some of those trips?
Oh yeah, no. I was working at Tognates, and him and a guy named Bob Davis, and I don't know if you ever heard of that guy, but they built a car, their own chassis that they called a side bike, and it was really weird. It was the car was different than anybody's car around here, and Clyde Lamar is the guy that financed the whole thing, gave him a shop to work on, paid all the money. Well, he came down to the speed shop at Tognotti's when we sold other cars that we built ourselves and parts, and they were going to go back at the Midwest and run with the Outlaws and what have you with this car. So he came in there and he says, when either Bob Davis or Gary Patterson calls you up, whatever they need, just send it to them and send me the bill and I'll know. Well, they were only gone for 2 or 3 days, and they called me up. They said, hey, we need a 51-inch Halibrand rear end sent up to, I think it was in Colorado, I think is where they were at.
Okay.
And they had just left, and he said he wanted a tapered axle. I said, Gary, you don't run a tapered axle. So Clyde said, just send us whatever we want. And I said, buddy, you need to tell me why you need this rear end. That's not what you run in your car.
Yeah.
He says, we're out of chemicals. I'll let you decide what that was really about.
Okay.
So I sent him a rear end, billed it to Clyde. Clyde paid for it. Well, when they got back from there, they didn't run a whole season, but they ran a while. And Clyde decided to get out of racing. And he said, come over and tell me what I wasn't paying with my money, but the guy I worked for, Tognotti's, said, we'll go over there. So I went over there and we bought the race car. We bought the chassis, the trailer, spare parts. He says, I want you to promise me that everything that you pay for gets taken out of this shop.
Tell me about just that time he won Dirt Cup in 1973 and just kind of, do you remember kind of how his reaction was? He had to have been completely happy. And back then Dirt Cup wasn't just at one track, if I recall. It was a series of tracks that you guys would run at.
Right, exactly. Yep. And I can't remember how many races we actually ran that particular year, but he won enough of them to win the whole thing. And it was a good deal. I'm having trouble remembering whose car he was driving. I don't think it might have been Don, not the Snow that runs with us, but Don Snow. It might have been his car, which is number 7, but I just can't remember. I'm sorry, but that was a really good race that we all liked. You know what I mean? And he did good in it.
Yeah. I think it was like Sky Valley would be one night, and I can't remember if Grays Harbor was a part of it too. But Skagit has always been a part of it.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. Yep. It was good.
And then, so he gave you the nickname the Rat. What's the story behind that?
Well, that year in the 70s, I think it was, when we were building a car at his house in the garage that he was renting, we couldn't. We needed what do you call it? 240 electrical stuff in his shop so we could hook a welder up. Well, the power was in the back of the house he was living, so him and I didn't want to get up in the attic where you get up there where all that that shit that makes you itch really bad.
Oh, insulation, yeah.
Yeah, so we put his kid up there, who was skin and bone. He crawled all the way to the back, fed the line out there. We got him out of there, and he was itching all over the place. So we take him in the house, put him in the shower, get him cleaned up. Well, we're in watching television after we got him all dried off and put some clothes on him. And his mother, that he was married to, his actual real mother, was there. And she used to cut his hair like you put a bowl on his head and cut. It's like I call it a page boy, whether it was or not.
Sure.
But there was a cartoon that come off there that was a worm. But this worm had hair, which in the cartoon, that's where it had to be because worms don't really, a snake or whatever you want to call it, had the page boy haircut. So I said, dude, that's you. You're the worm. Well, the next thing that came up was the cartoon Fat Rat.
Okay.
So Patterson sees that, and he goes, that's going to be your nickname. So my nickname was Fat Rat for years and years and years until people kind of quit doing the fat part, and it just became the rat. You know what I mean? But,
yeah, the slender
but
version.
yeah. So the day he died, I guarantee you, I'm still the fat rat to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I looked something up, and it says 1973 Dirt Cup champion Gary Patterson was a number 0 car.
Oh yeah, that would have been that Bob Davis car. Yeah.
Okay. And let's see, Friday, June 8th, he won at Skagit, and then it rained out the next day at Elma Fairgrounds, the half-mile track at where Grays Harbor is. Sunday, he got 4th, and then Monday, you guys ran at Sky Valley in Monroe, and looks like he won that one.
Yeah.
And then it looks like they had a double feature, and he finished 2nd in the 2nd one.
Right. I remember that week when we were up there. I can't remember what was the shortest racetrack that we were at, and I always said that if the guy was going down the back stretch and put his left hand out of his car, and you were going down the front straightaway and you put your hand out, you could clap each other as you went by. That's how small the infield was.
Uh-huh.
Well, the guy, 2 cars hooked up in the backstretch, and the guy that he was driving for, Bob Davis, was back there, and one of the cars came driving through, or got knocked into the pit, and Bob Davis was a big guy. He jumped on the front wing and rode the car out to keep it get run over. Otherwise, he'd get run over. You know what I mean? It was crazy.
Man.
Yeah.
That had to have been Sky Valley, I think.
It was Sky Valley.
Yeah,
Yep, that was it.
Because I think it was a quarter mile, but and it's like right next to Evergreen Speedway.
Yep. I remember going down. We got there early enough, and I walked down in turn 1 and looked over the wall, and there was like a gravel company on the other side. If you went out of that place, you're going to go into that gravel plant, which was seemed like 60, 70 feet down there where you're actually going to land, but nobody ever did that. But it was an okay place to race, but if you went flying out of there, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, and that would have been like around the days like Fred Brownfield would have been running.
Yeah, exactly.
Dick Wilski. Cecil Walker. Lots of hitter names.
And I can't remember the guy that used to be back there that I used to do a lot of business with at Tognotti's to send them parts up there. That he sold parts to everybody throughout Washington there. I wish I could remember his name, dude, but the accident I had about a year ago has kind of take most of my old memories away. And I'm unlike Patterson. He was more like me, but if you're talking to Jimmy Sills, Jimmy Boyd, Tim Green, any of those people, and talk about a particular race, you could tell them it's 1968 at such and such. They could tell you every lap they ran at that place. And I never looked at races that way.
Sure.
If you ask me a question about it, I go, I don't know. I may have won, but I can't tell you how I won. When the race was over, I moved on to the next race. I don't. And when I got inducted into the Hall of Fame at Calistoga, I got up there and I had all the people that helped me. I had them there, and Jimmy Sills was there, and Jimmy Boyd. I said, these 2 guys that are here, they could tell you about every race they ever run. And I said, Jimmy Sills is the only guy I know. Not only can he tell you every lap he ran, but if you asked him, was there any good-looking women there, he not only could tell you where the women were sitting, what seat they had, and what section in the grandstands that they were at. You know what I mean? He remembers that to this day.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, definitely a special person, it sounds like Gary was, and no doubt you're a special person too, Mike. I mean, it's so great that you're still a part of the NARC series and you're still heavily involved in sprint car racing. Yeah.
I've been doing it a long time, buddy. It's my, I like it. I don't carry any grudges to anybody. If they do something wrong, that's for that race. The next race they show up, I don't bring any of that into the next race. You know what I mean? It's
sure.
It's a great sport. My dad used to race. My dad went to Indianapolis. He used to race 7 nights a week up and down the valley in California with NASCAR, but they were old jalopies or whatever you want to call them. You know what I mean? But it was a good sport, really good.
Well, and this kind of alludes back to Gary as well. Like back when you guys were racing, there were some speed shops, but you guys had to be resourceful. You guys knew how to work on your own stuff. You got and drive.
Oh yeah,
and drive the rig to the next race.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't like now when you buy speed parts from somebody, you had to make them fit on your car. If you buy something now, it don't make no difference who you buy it from. It's going to bolt up on your car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And which is a better thing for them. But it was cool back then because it gave you something to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, totally. And you're kind of a real team owner, team mascot, team financier. Sometimes the head driver, and sometimes you're the only guy working on your stuff on race day.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yep.
Well, cool. Well, it's been great to catch up with you, Mike, and have you
buddy.
Share some of these special memories.
You bet. I'll see you Saturday and Sunday, obviously.
Well, that is going to do it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure and hit the like and subscribe button on whatever platform you found this interview at. It really helps us grow the channel, and we greatly appreciate it. In the meantime, we'll be back with more content and interviews in the future. Be sure and have a great evening or a great rest of your day, whatever time you're listening.